look to see what he will say to me and what answer I will to give to this complaint. Then the Lord replied, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that herald may run with it. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. See, he is puffed up. His desires are not upright, but the righteous person will live by his faith. Indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant and never at rest, because he is as greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied. He gathered to himself all the nations and take captives all the peoples. And the second scripture is from the New Testament, the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 1 through 3. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. This is the word of the Lord. Now, our next hymn is number 50, Change My Heart, O God. Today I'm going to share these words with you about how a church or a person can think about forming a vision, how to be a visionary person. And I know you can read many books and many places will tell you about how to be a good visionary, a good dreamers, or whatever that. But for us as a people of faith, we should dig into the things that make us really, what does really matter for me? Why these things are very important for me? So we cannot think about forming a vision or being a visionary people for our own personal life, or as a church, as Shakopee Presbyterian Church, or the church in a universal meaning, without really going back and digging in what do we believe in? What really matters? Why do we want to stay in business, doing church business and doing all the good things that we need to do? Because there is something matter for us. There is something. And I hope that as today we're going to understand the vision of Habakkuk as he talked in chapter 2, 1 through 4. This vision, when God told him to have a vision and to write it down, did not come for a guy who was really sitting in a good situation or a simple situation. He is a Jew, and as a Jew you understand that always your identity been questioned from day one. Since you were nomads as Abraham, just going all over the desert trying to figure out where I am from and where I'm going to. When you can see that as their identity goes down when they went through starvation as a small family, this family of Jacob, and then they're trying to find out a place where they can get fed and feel a new opportunity. When they came to Egypt as almost like illegal immigrants, just being in Egypt at this time, trying to find a place where they can be fed and protected. So when you go through all Jewish history, you will find this question about who we are, where we came from, and what do we want to do about the future is a very, very strong question. So questioning who you are is not just a matter of having a good time with yourself, but you are all the time. You are in the desert and others are asking you who you are. What are you doing here? Where are you going to? So all these questions are not forbidden, but from time to time we need really to stop and ask ourselves. And I'll take you on a short trip. I'm not a fan to make my sermon as a history lesson, but history is something we cannot escape. So to understand where this book was written and where it came from, just want to give you a short introduction about what happened to the Jews just almost 150 years before Christ's birth. Jews were troubled by many things that's happened to them. Politically, militarily, all the things. This is the country that's controlled by many foreign powers for many centuries. The Egyptians took over the Babylonians, the Syrians, the Persians, the Greek, you name it, the Syrians and the Romans. So these guys really never had a rest to feel the idea of having their own country, their own identity. So they formed the only time that something happened very big for the Jewish history. This date I want you to remember. On the year 167 BC, something big happened for the Jewish community. The Jewish community resisted the Syrian when the Jewish family known as the Maccabees led a revolution, and for the first time from a long time ago, and maybe this is part of short time in the Jewish history, where they start to feel independent and feel like we actually can take over the country. We can worship the way we want. We can do anything. We can mix the religion and the state and everything together. We can have our dream. So this is a golden time for many Jews. But this dream lasts for 100 years. So the Maccabees, a Jewish family, run their own country for 100 years. And later, the year 63 BC, almost 60 years before Christ's birth, this dream again crashed and gone. When the Romans came to Israel, Palestine, and took over the region, and now were not running the country anymore. Just 60 years before Jesus' birth, the Jewish community again searching the whole idea, who we are, what are we doing, which direction are we going to take in the future. And we all face these questions, not only for the Jewish community. These questions will never be old as far as we live as individuals and as a community. We'll always be challenged about these questions. Think of yourself that you're moving on, you keep walking, and sometimes you find yourself in the middle of the road, you are in the middle of intersection. When you encounter an intersection, you cannot just keep walking. You have to decide which way you want to take. Sometimes if you just walk in one way, you forgot, you keep walking, and kind of like life, the routine make us, when we used to do things, we do things sometimes even without hard thinking, because it became like a habit, like a custom in our life. But when you reach an intersection on the road, you cannot just keep walking. You have to stop and think about which way I want to go. Do I want to go right, left, forward, back? then you have to stop. With every moment in your life, what you call difficult moments in your life, that could be a gift for you and me to stop and think about where we came from and which direction we like to continue to take in the future. So with this difficult news about how the Jews really were occupied for many, many years by many different powers, and they had their dreams for a short time, for 100 years, and somehow the dream is gone, and the Romans now taking over. So the group, the Jews, were very interested in the idea of Messiah. The word Christ, Messiah, Messiah, it means anointed one. They know that anointing is for the priests and for the kings. But the Jews, at 200 years before Christ, the Jews start to develop what we call a theology, apocalyptic theology, which means what about tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow? With many ideas about this guy, that the Savior, the guy that will come and save our nation, the one that will save us from despair. So the Messiah was being considered as the healer, that the one will come and heal our nation because we are so broken. We are so weak, and we need this guy to heal us physically and spiritually. So they give the Messiah, the title is the healer, the man of the Spirit. And another one was to imagine the Messiah, that the guy that will come will be a great teacher, the guy that will give us everything we want. This group was called the Essenes that's lived, and we assume that maybe John the Baptist was not sure, was a member of this group. If you ever heard about Qumran documents or the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is the group that we are referring to. A group lived more like monks. A group lived kind of like the society is not clean. We are going to have our own society, our own private community, so we can stay away from the society. This group was waiting for the great teacher, the guy that will come and teach us. The definition of the great teacher is the one who has nothing and wants nothing. The prophet they thought too about this guy, the Messiah, will come to fix our society. The prophet was coming to fix us. The prophet who can do something practical, can change our social life, kick all the bad guys, all the bad habits, all the things that we disagree on, and he will bring all the good things. It's full of desire to bring justice to everybody. Everybody in the first century formed whatever they need. As one say, if you ask people about what is heaven for you, and ask the children and ask adults to draw a picture of what heaven is. And they found out most of the answers, it came from really what people are missing. If somebody living in a desert, so you find the people who live in a desert, they will picture the heaven as the most lavish, green, and water, and everything is good. Because that's what you are missing when you live in a desert, you know? If you are living in a cold Minnesota weather, maybe picturing heaven more warmer, not cold like the winter, right? So they found like everybody will draw a picture of something that they are missing. And what these people were picturing, drawing a picture of who the Messiah is, the guy that's going to come in the future. Everybody put their priority. One saw him the healer, the one that will run the country like a governor or like a president. And some of them saw him as really this great teacher, like this good preacher, that's like the guru of Christianity that will sit around him, and everybody will be just happy and in peace and no problem and no conflict. So there is nothing wrong with all these pictures we draw. But we know that sometimes we put too much on what we expect from the other guy. We need what we need, and there is nothing wrong with that. But then when the Messiah comes, he will tell you something different. All this, what we call the apocalyptic prophet, the prophet that will come in the future and tell us and prepare the Jews for the end of times. All these different understanding of this guy, Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, that will take us away from the exile. Exile? We are not in exile. We live in the same land. But the Jews start to experience what we call spiritual exile. The exile happened like 500 years or more before Christ, when they were taken to Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq today. So when they were taken there for 70 years and then came back. But now you hear in the Bible, the Jews are still talking about exile. We're not in exile, but we're talking about even when you are in the Holy Land, you can be somewhere else. So they figure out that being in the Holy Land will not save you from being away from God. Being in a church, you could be in a place that we think it's holy and we are practicing everything holy, but your heart and mind, your physically could be here, but your heart and mind right now could be somewhere else, right? It's happened to all of us. But we get more enjoy when we are in the moment, belong to what's happening, and not making our minds go somewhere else. So the Lord today, through these verses, are teaching us these messages about vision were not formed out of somebody's coming from a heavenly place. Habakkuk and his people were going through a very hard time. The Jewish people, if you want to summarize their history, very difficult history for a community of people who were persecuted for many reasons. This is just the reality that we cannot deny. So it's really, when you read the Jewish history, at least the one we know in the old days, it's really very sad history. It's a lot of bad things happen. Yes, God intervened and helped them. But out of all these difficult things, there is always something good happening. So the first thing that we need to know about vision is not born out of luxury. It's actually sometimes born out of difficult things. What are we doing? Do we want to stay in business? If we want to sacrifice something, what's more important? What should I sacrifice and what should I keep going? So when you think about vision from a Christian perspective, you are questioning yourself, what's the most important thing for me? The reality that life will take things away from you, and life will give you things. But when you encounter the question, which part you want to give up? Which part you want to maybe put on sleep? Which one that's something that's very important for you? And imagine as the whole church, not this church, I'm talking about the whole universal church is really struggling about what is the future of the church? What's going to happen to the church? Not just about Shakabi. It's a global question. What are we going to do? How long are we going to stay? How can we do things? But the most important things is like, why should we stay doing things as usual? So the vision that this guy that's telling us, Habakkuk, he was a lucky guy. He does not have to suffer like the other Jews. But he said, I cannot just stay away and act like an arrogant person who has a good life. He started to ask hard questions. So if you go back, and I encourage you, this is a very short book, but it's a really very powerful book in the Christian history to know about how many people were inspired by what he wrote. The book of Habakkuk was written to reflect the struggle of Jews during the exile and raising the question of all generation about the power of evil over good people. How many times you wonder in your own personal life about, this is not fair what happened to me? What happened to my family or my friend or somebody, it's not fair. You may be sometimes we're afraid to say it because it will make us look like We are less believer or less Christian, but how many times this question came to our mind? Either regarding our own personal life or regarding somebody we love and care about. These questions are not forbidden. And Habakkuk is teaching us, bring your question to the Lord. This question will not be a curse. This question may actually help you to understand what God is doing in your life. How many times we're so afraid to ask questions, especially when it sounds like, well, we'll look like really we are doubting our faith. Or we will look like less Christian. And will look less Presbyterian. But what happened to telling the truth? That's how we feel. When people are suffering, they feel pain. If you are hurt by something and you do not feel pain, then your doctor will be worried about your nerves, right? Because your nerve is built to really sense something is wrong with your body. Something is not usual happening to you. So it's a natural way for our body to respond to pain. So this is what questions in our life is not a curse. Question, if we are honest and want to, there will be a best place to form a vision. So when we come to this book, the book of Habakkuk, is asking about why this difficult thing is happening to good people. Why there is a lot of injustice happening to good people on a smaller scale and a larger scale. So he brought this asking about, well, we were taught if things are good in your life, that means you are closer to God. And if things are not going well, then just figure out what did you do wrong. I wish life is really that simple, you know? Things are not well in my life, I'm sick, or I'm not getting what I want, because I'm not in a good relationship with God. But really, when you read the Bible, it tells us this was the old way that changed. And Habakkuk made a big difference, understanding that there is suffering in this world. It's not because you are cursed. It's not because you are not a good believer. It's not because you lost you're being a good follower of Jesus Christ. It's just the nature of fight between good and evil. And simply, you choose to be on the side of good. And that makes you naturally the enemy of evil. So it's a very interesting switch instead of saying it as a curse. It shows you as a privilege if you choose to be on this side. So the consequences of this side, that these things going to happen to good people. So instead of feeling that you are the victim of the other side that we call the evil side, it's really start to see that I choose to stand for these things. I choose to stand for those who are weak. I choose to stand for those who have no voice. And when you do that, it's normally you recruit enemies. You don't have personal problem with them, but just normally because you accept this agenda. You accept to say, this is what I value. This is what I stand for. This is what I fight for. And these are really the big questions that the church needs to ask today about. If we want to stay in business, if we want to stay to be God's presence in Shakopee area, what do we like to keep? What do we like to stay that's beyond our own personal interest and our own personal needs? What do I like? Like, if I look from heaven, you and me, like 100 years or 200 years from now, and we look on heaven, from heaven and look at this community and this church, what do we like to see? What do we like to see happening? How do we see God's presence in this community? So as we see that Habakkuk is encouraging you and me, saying that the best vision first is not born out of nothing. It's born out of suffering. The first thing that's most important, that vision born out of necessity and not just luxury. You are asking yourself a question, how do we survive? How do we continue? So then when we form this vision out of our pain, suffering, and struggle, we need to ask the honest questions. In my own personal way, I think maybe there are many and accurate answers, but I believe there is no wrong questions. There are many questions, many answers that we get today. They are good for me, but maybe I change my mind tomorrow and find a better answer. So today Habakkuk is encouraging us to use suffering, to use the struggle that we have in our life personally or as a church, to ask ourselves these honest questions about what are we doing. And he gets the message from God to say, okay, you want to stick with these guys? You want to be part of this community? Here's what I'm telling you. First, you need to listen. How many times we like to talk, but it's hard for us to listen? How many times we tell God everything about what we want? Here is the list of what we want. And we treat God like the delivery guy, Just we give him the list and we run away. We do not treat God as an equal partner that sits and listen to you. Okay, you said your side. The next thing is to listen to what God is saying to you. How many times you sat after you honestly said what's in your heart and mind to listen to God's voice within or without, or from the outsiders? So, and just here, Habakkuk is saying, yes, I told God what I felt, and now it's time. Let's give God time to express himself. So Habakkuk gave God a chance, so he listened. Yes, he was so frustrated. He was in pain. He was honest. But at the same time, he was aware to know, now it's time to listen to God's voice. How many times we discipline ourselves as God's people to listen humbly, to be in a quiet place where we are not interrupted by our own fears and thoughts. So today, the Lord is telling him, yes, I'll give you a vision. And he gave him some really good things about the vision. The vision that should be very clear, that everybody can see and symbol. What a benefit from a vision that will happen 200 years from now, and not a vision that people can start to work on it from here and now. Today we say this vision is really need to be engaged what was happening in this world. Vision is simply about seeing something that helps us to say something and to share it with others through discussion, and later to make it visible through applications. Habakkuk is telling us, in one hand, I hold the book of questions, these hands full of questions and wondering about what's happening in this community. But on the other hand, I hold the book of faith that's inspired me. This book of faith that's keep me active. While he's trying to find a vision about this church for the future, he was not just sleeping or laying down or being lazy. He was actually doing his job. He was standing there watching, doing his job. What is my part in a church? Even if you agree or disagree with the pastor, the committee, whoever is really kind of like taking the leading role in the church, does not stop you, because when you do this business, you are doing it not for the pastor or anybody. You are doing it because that's what fills your heart. You do it regardless of who is preaching here and who is not preaching here. You do it regardless of who's running the business or not, because you do it from your heart, because at the end of the day, you do it because it fills you. So the Lord is telling us today about to do that, this vision, through faith. If we are going in the same direction and God is saying things are going not well, God is saying, rethink, reconsider. A vision that's born out of struggle and is connected with people's needs, a vision that always be revised. I'm sure the people that start this church a long time ago, they have a different vision because it was a different reality and different context. I'm sure a lot of lifestyle was different too, really. No social media, no a lot of modern things that we have around here. And the church was really a very central place in many ways. And if we want to be really an effective agent to express God's love, we need to ask that. Our ancestor did a very good job to get us where we are today. What can we do so our great-grandchildren, when they come to this community, they can have something to say about us? They can have something to say about this church that did something that's last beyond their own needs, beyond their own self-understanding. So this is why the vision that Habakkuk is teaching you and me today to do is a vision that's born out of suffering, pain, but it is connected with people. And a vision that's not only from heaven, it's a vision that always can evolve. A vision can be revised. And we can revisit the vision of this church every year, whatever time we want. Because we are not a dead history. We are a living being. As far as we are here, we're saying that God's love, God's mission in this world should be all the time be revised, developed, and redirected, and revisited. And there is nothing wrong with that. So I pray that this vision will be something that we all as a church, we can tell people which direction we like to talk. We can start to talk as a church, formally and informally, about our future. We can start talk about how we like really to be God's presence in this world. And today, as we see that as an opportunity, I'd like to invite you to take a moment to pray. Just want you now to close your eyes and pray for yourself so God can help you to walk you through that. I want you to pray for yourself, that asking God to make you an agent of His change in this world. I pray that you will ask God to guide you, to make you understand His love in different languages. Amen. And now the prayer.
If anyone has any joys or concerns, prayers, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic out to you.
Prayers for a friend of mine who's about to adopt